one thing I've figured out is that I'm gonna I keep trying to work on the language, the best language to explain this part. So the flat is never, like, whenever we've even done our system and you make a flat, like actually deadly flat, it lots of times in certain light conditions can still look like a bump.
Yes, that's right, yeah.
Right, and so I started trying to really understand why that was happening. Right, and it started kind of becoming a little bit clearer as like when you put a trowel on the peak or the interior of a joint, and then you still see the fact that things still convex a bit, right? And so what I've started doing is I've started really pulling back and putting less material into the joints, because I've found the closer I can get to just bevel to bevel connection, the more forgiving the light is across it, right? So even though the board will slightly contour, it's contouring equally. But what can happen is if you have a contour, so say there's a contour from here to here, and then I put a flat piece from here to here, ultimately that flat piece visually looks like a bump under certain lighting conditions. But what I've found is if you keep the contour going, as in it's a gentle contour from end to end, that's when it becomes invisible.
Yeah, I have this kind of issue. In one house, I went back 6 times. Sometimes, under certain light directions.
Yeah.
Let's say 2 o'clock in the afternoon.
Yeah.
You can see it.
Yeah.
Come 9 in the morning, you don't see anything.
Yeah.
And I figure out one thing is, the joint finished with mud.
Yeah.
Have different texture with the paper face.
Yes. Yes.
And taping mud can solve this problem very good, because it has a little fiber in there. The finish surface closer to the paper surface.
For sure, and I'm going to take you a step further.
Yeah.
I agree with you.
Yeah.
I believe where we can go with tape and mud is get rid of the bevel. If we can get rid of the bevel and only work with the micro bevel, then we have a lot less opportunity for there to be a transition between the drywall paper and the mud.
And the mud, yes.
Yeah. So we potentially can go to eliminating a huge amount of workload. Further, as a concept, if we want the finer finish that mud can provide, then the drywall itself could already be pre-skimmed. And then if that was done, now the tape and mud will allow us to just finish it off, sand it, and the wall would be a level 5 wall without having to do all of this work. Let's head right to the top floor. Sorry, this is just a little bit messy. Our gun kind of spat or whatever, did something weird. But yeah, I had a hairline crack here, but this is a taped angle. And we do notice that happens a lot, even with tape. So here, this butt joint, this is not taped. Okay, I only did this because I already know it was going to be fine. I just did it because I was willing to just fill it a few times, like I said. So, like I said, completely believe that the butt joints will hold. Only taping them because of that shrink back problem. And so it ended up being faster than taping. This is also no tape. And then this over here is also. I'm trying to remember. Something over here. But yeah, like I said, what I've been doing is just every so often leaving tape out of the equation. And I like it that way because I want it to, first off, as soon as we see something go wrong, I want somebody to have to say, oh, was that taped? Right? So their first conclusion might be that, oh, it wasn't taped. Right? And then I'm going to happily, smile when they go and say, yes, it was taped. Right? And so that's why I did it. So it's not an overly large amount, but it's enough that if there was a product failure, it should fail. Right? And otherwise, there's going to be failure all over the place. So I'm looking at it like Pepsi and Cola, right? Pepsi and Coke. It's a blind tape test. instead of a blind taste test, it's a blind tape test. So that's where I'm at with it as of right now, and I'm relying on it very extensively in angles.
Yeah, I think
So angles were to me an easy one because if there ever was a failure, it's very easy to clock it, as in for like a fix. Yeah. And again, I'm not saying product failure, I'm saying building shift failure. Yeah. So I don't have to get into a bunch of arguments, it's very easy just to caulk it and move on.
I think the building materials is different. It takes time to build up the confidence. It takes years, like the drywall sheets.
Yeah.
It took about 50 years for people to, really accept the new way to finish walls.
I'm a very quick adopter, but I do like to trust, but then verify. And I feel like we've been doing that very successfully. And I gotta say, it's really impressed us. We know that there's certain instances where just the building process is creating too much vulnerability in the drywall. That just simply makes us nervous. It's not really to do with tape and mud or tape. It's just, we just know the stresses that things can end up under. So I've looked at it sometimes as in like, well, why not just do everything you can do? Like, so if you feel like nervous about an area, well, why not use tape and mud as a foundation and then still tape it, just to, just so that we're like doing everything we can to try and combat the problem, right? And then ultimately, I try to move towards better building practices, getting drywall, attached to the framing in better ways, or just, we use sound bar on a lot of our large expanse ceilings, these butt joint boards that I'm talking about with you, all these different ways that we're trying to just say, let's just try and get a lot of stress off of the drywall, right? I mean, it's not really that hard to understand what we're doing here, because you take any MDF or finisher, they don't use tape, right? They use a much harder finishing material, right? And then, so an MDF, and then they use a harder base paste, a Bondo, right? And they put these two pieces together, but then they also are very interesting about the way they write their warranties. That now, under their world of things, you are responsible for keeping the environment of the home to a certain level. So as things start to split apart, they can say, okay, well, what have been your humidity levels and this and that. They can ask all these questions that now you were responsible for. But it's funny how with drywall, these considerations are not in our warranties, right? And so they get out of failure all the time without tape, right? Because their product is literally split apart. And yet we don't get out of it because it's not the way our warranties are. So we need to really work at the language of the warranty to help people understand why this product is just as successful as any other product or any other way of doing things. In fact, more successful. And like I was saying about, if you are going to have a failure, not that I want to have more failures than ever. Like I don't want to increase failure, but if I am going to have a failure, I don't want tape in the way. Like I'm going to show you a picture that a friend just sent me. And I find this incredibly interesting, that here he is, 10-year to maybe 15-year-old house, and he's trying to sell it, and he wants to do a fix, right? And so here's his little bit of homeowner patching work, right? Trying to do a little spackle patch, or a little bit of touch-up work. And then look at that. What's that?
No tape in there, eh?
That's a tape. That's the edge of the tape.
Oh, the edge of
curling off, and now he's on a textured ceiling. What homeowner could possibly handle that fix? If that was tape in mud, that would have never happened like that. What would have happened is he would have a little crack in here that he would have just caulked and moved on. So I find it interesting about the discussion of warranty. It's like, well, how about we make a crack we can fix as opposed to make a crack that's now a mess? Right, and that's why I'm 100% behind what we can do.
For the warranty, I give my customer a lifelong warranty.
There's a man who knows his product.
That means it's my life, not a house. As long as I'm still around, whatever happens, I'll fix it for free.
There you go. That's standing behind your product. And I mean, I can't do that. I'm doing too much volume to do that. I don't believe in the 5 times. And unfortunately, I don't not believe in the product. I'm a little frustrated with our building process. Our overall building process is still very unfriendly to all drywall products. Drywall, like you said it earlier, drywall itself, the manufactured drywall itself. We've watched the paper just the face paper of drywall just be ripped to shreds because a building has just shifted and moved. And it has nothing to do with a joint. It has nothing to do with it joining at all. It's just simply the manufacturing of the drywall is not strong enough to hold the building together, so there it goes, it's split apart. And you know, so when we see that kind of, the buildings under that kind of pressure, how can we not expect to do some hairline fixing and cracking as all these things are moving around? So, you know, it's just starting right from the building envelope, controlling what kind of temperature we get the house to before we even board. Then once we do board, how long do we, you know, work with when we start putting these products in? And that's why I'm really enjoying this particular process. The very first thing I do when I get to the job is tape in mud. And I'm going to be here for 5 weeks. So I already have 5 weeks exposure of the building, of knowing what is and isn't going to happen. And those first 5 weeks are actually quite crucial. That's where a lot of stuff happens.
Yes.
Right? So by hitting it first day one, and then by end of day, last day, you had this large expanse of time and no failure. And it's like, well then, now I start to realize that any failure we could have down the line starts to move more into like potential like actual ground shifting or real serious stresses. Like that's what's going on at Sarge. Like we know there's something going on with that building because it's under some extreme stresses, right?
But yeah, repairing that crack is a lot easier if you don't have to take the tape out.
Yeah, a lot easier.
The Abbas, Mino Homes, Mino Homes. I just started working with this guy. I sent you pictures of all the tapes released on the main floor. Dug them all out, put in new tape just so everybody was comfortable. Basement, V-cut only, and fixed with tape and mud. No failures. So all the bubble tapes were getting fixed by being cut out and being fixed with tape and mud. Right? And it's like I showed you downstairs, my guy, you know, one little mishap. But yeah, way better, more efficient fix for a problem. You know, and then of course service work, service patches, just keeping everything way tighter. And once you're dealing with a finished home, painted walls, painted patches that can go right back in, minimal fix, way less dust, like just reducing workload and difficulty, especially when you're dealing with a warranty call, right? To be able to fix it without tape is just far superior and faster.
Yeah, I should have come earlier to see you. Yeah, so your feedback is very, very valuable. So we keep in touch with each other. You know, I have an engineer background, and I don't know why I got so much passion about this muddy, dusty business. You know, I enjoy working with this kind of, and I'm still working on it for the fiber combination. Now I'm close to the peak, but still not there yet.
Yeah.
Because for the fibers, you know, we got millions, billions of fibers in a small amount of mud.
Yeah.
And even I have a electronic microscope. And I use dyes trying to figure out the structure of the fiber in the mud, but it's not easy to see it clearly. So got to use different portion, you know, but the combination, that's a huge number.
Yeah.
I'm trying to adjust this amount, you know, the diameter of the fiber, the length of the fiber, you know, the length and diameter ratio.
Yeah.
That's, you know, that makes a big difference.
Yeah.
It's like, you know, that game, you know, people pull that rope.
Yeah.
The rope, if the rope is too thin, then you cannot hold it.
Yeah.
If it's too thick,
Yeah.
you cannot hold it either.
Yeah.
If it's too long,
Yeah.
if
Much
it's
slower.
long enough, enough people on both sides, it'll break.
Yeah.
If it's too short,
Yeah.
you know, it
Yeah.
cannot hold nothing. So it got to be the right diameter, the right length, and the right combination. Different fibers, they perform different roles.
Yeah.
Now, you know, I'm getting close to the peak performance.
Right.
But still a long way to go.
Yeah.
So I'm still keep doing the experiment
Yeah.
and trying to improve the combination.
Yeah.
So your feedback is very important to me. So
Well,
thank you so much.
We're getting close to being confident enough. We have a multi-family project coming up that we've considered ordering square edge drywall. And we're still talking about it. The reason we can do it on a multi-family project is because currently in the marketplace, in order to order square edge drywall or drywall without a bevel, you need to order $25,000 worth or somewhere in that range. And it's a certain run. But then also there's problems with logistics. You can only get a certain length of sheet within that run, and then how it has to be all delivered at one time, and so there are some logistical problems that we have to work through. And then this is the real beautiful part. They charge you more for this square edge drywall. So you're adding cost, right, to try and decrease cost. But at the end of the day, without somebody taking the plunge, it's going to be hard to know the top level of what the product can perform. So I would love to push it into somewhere doing something like that, where you're just leaving tape behind is not an option. Because as soon as you've now eliminated the bevel, you've eliminated the cost of filling the bevel, you've eliminated the material for the bevel, and you're already working on a product which eliminates the reason for the bevel. So you put all those combinations together, and obviously the whole thing starts to make complete sense. But once we've done that, we have to know the product's for sure going to hold, because we have just relied on it 100% now. Now there's no tape, right? So I'm still working towards getting the confidence level to be able to make a commitment like that, and we're hoping we're going to make it, because it's multiple people involved, right? It's the builder, it's us as the drywallers. It's making sure the labor knows how to install and do everything that I want. So that's a project not far from here. It's just a multi-family townhouse project.
I like to see that project, when you are working on it. So anyway, you are not far away, just 3 hours.
Yeah.
So I can come over any weekends. So I like to see how the project's going.
Yeah.
And from my experience, I can tell that with the spirit that you have, you're going to be a very successful man. That's the spirit. Some people, just have this kind of passion, want to achieve something better. But I think, no offense, most people, they don't have that spirit.
No, it's true. It's a lot of what do they say? The first guy through the wall gets a little bloody. And I mean, this is a pretty big wall. Drywall has been relying on tape for 60, 70 years.
70 years,
Yeah. So it's not that's a pretty thick wall. So I'm imagining you get me up a little bit. You gotta have a lot of passion. Keep banging your head against it.
That's right.
But we'll get there. It'll happen.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you. It's really nice to meet you.
Very nice to meet you too.
It's not too late. So we meet. But I really have come earlier.
Oh, all good. We're in the process now. Like I said, we have about, I don't know, there's probably about 10 houses out there. At least 10 houses that are randomly taped.
Yeah, you guys ordered a lot more. So you use quite a bit of fiber. So any questions or you have any issues, let me know. The first time, let me know. We can work together to solve this problem. And the new addition of taping mud, the workability is a lot better. Because the fiber are finer, and
they're not going to be so draggy.
I wonder if that might be easier to run through the
sometimes,
pump.
the last edition we use 3 millimeters fiber, and in this bag we don't use 3 millimeter. The longest is 1 millimeter.
Oh, okay.
And you know what? Only one manufacturer, that's my supplier, the manufacturer, only one in China. They can cut that fiber into 1 millimeter.
Oh, wow. Yeah,
I
that'll be
didn't-
interesting to try it.
I didn't know about that.
Yeah.
I think it's pretty much, you know, like.
Yeah, because I was struggling with it a little bit in the tube. Like I was using it for a tube, and I found it a lot easier when, like, so what I was doing, I was doing a double bag mix for filling the bevel, and then I was using a one bag mix to finish an angle, and that was better. But like, yeah, if you had a two bagger it was very hard to work with the two. But at least with one bag, it wasn't so bad. But yeah, like, so I think with the smaller fibers, that's gonna help for tooling.
Yeah, I started with 6 millimeters.
Oh, okay.
Even the 3 millimeters fiber, sometimes you can have a ball of fiber in the mud.
Right.
When you run trouble,
Yeah.
you see a track
yes,
there.
Yes, I've experienced that. I know what you mean. Yes.
This one is much better.
Much finer.
You know,
That's exciting.
because the equipment to cut the fiber
Yeah.
is pretty much like we cut the green onion.
Right.
Go like that.
So 1
And
millimeter
the thing
cut.
is, you know, it
Yeah.
moves fast,
Right.
and then the blade getting really hot.
Right.
When it's hot enough, the fiber is plastic.
Yeah. Melts.
It will melt.
Right.
So that's why
Manufacturing difficulties. Yeah.
it's not easy
Of course.
to cut that short. But now you see, actually, I have a team in China.
Right.
You got scientists, engineers, manufacturers, you know, mechanics. We work together to develop the new blade,
Right.
new equipment, and the chemical factory. I tell them, I want this diameter fiber. Says, no, that's not impossible. I said, everything is possible.
Yeah.
Just make it thinner. You know?
Yeah.
So
That's
now
very
I
good.
can have whatever the diameter is,
Yeah.
and whatever the length.
Yeah.
So the factory, they can make special fiber for me, and the manufacturer can cut it
Nice.
into the length that we need, according to my calculation. It should be much thinner and shorter.
Right.
Actually, it's the shorter the better.
Right.
Sometimes, you know, our idea is not right. Sometimes, you know, like people use harder materials to fill up the joint, and they think, well, that's stronger. Actually, it's not true.
Right.
The softer with more flexibility
That's correct.
works
Better.
better.
Yes. Yes, I agree with that 100%.
Yeah.
Some tests,
Yeah.
they were a little bit archaic.
Yeah.
But I mean, some tests that I personally did was I took my body weight, right, and I just flexed the drywall sort of like off of a set of stairs like this, and I could see the product holding and flexing the additional sheet below it.
Yeah.
So working within the cavity, pushing on the drywall, the upper sheet, and with only the tape and mud adjoining the two sheets, the lower sheet flexing with that. And then I went to my taped joint and I pushed the same way, and the lower sheet did not flex, and the tape at a certain point of pressure released from the surface.
Yeah.
So I was like, okay, so clearly our bond between the two sheets is where a lot of the magic is going to lie. So the development, again, further of not just the micro bevel, but some potential spacers for the drywallers as far as installation of the drywall. So I have noticed that the product is even more successful when you actually get it through and actually get the two sheets. There's a little bit of product between the two sheets. I thought it was stronger, you know. Not a huge gap, but just a small gap between the sheets that made a really good bond.
Like 1 millimeter.
Like, yeah, like very, very small,
Yeah.
very small. But because sometimes when drywall gets pressed together so tight, there's not really a whole lot of room other than a surface hold, right? So to actually create like a little bit more like tiles, right, where tiles and grout. That would be my illustration of where I would want to see the drywall installation go. So you know, coming up with a way that for the drywaller, a very efficient way for him to create a consistent, very fine gap, and that would allow those fibers to get in and attach between the sheets, which would then help for the bond.
I think the trick is, you know, when the gap is fully filled with fiber reinforced mud,
Yeah.
and then make the joint much stronger.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. I agree. Well, excellent. I think we can wrap up
Thank
there.
you very